Hiya. Okay, so I just wanted just to really express my gratitude really to be here today. I love being involved in anything that requires self-reflection and for people to look at themselves. So this just really seems like the perfect place to do that, but to also be in a room full of you guys and to be given the opportunity to get to know you. I feel really grateful for that. So I'm going to kick us off, first of all, with this question. So, how can we encourage others or society to have unconditional positive regard? And I want to ask Kathy this question. Okay. Just stand up.
It's like being put on the spot. So, how can we encourage others or society to have unconditional positive regard? Well, I'm a psychologist, and some of you all know me. I've been in this area for a long time, and before being a clinical psychologist, I was a teacher. And one of the things I feel very passionate about, and something that I've been working on locally, is there's a massive opportunity to offer more education, because unconditional positive regard is actually, it's a skill. It's something that's quite difficult to do, but it's something you can learn to do. And there's absolutely no doubt that when you learn to do it, it improves your relationships. So one of the things I'd like to encourage to happen is that we had opportunities to discuss these issues. So we've just had a very brief exchange with Sue here. It is really quite astonishing, but these sorts of things, and understanding, for example, how children develop and the importance of how children develop in the context of their first relationships in home and school. That training often is massively missing out on basic understanding of how children develop in the adult role. So how can we do it? Well, my suggestion would be, let's put that into some core training.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm going to move on to Gaz because he's extremely nervous and I think he'll become more present once he's actually had the microphone in his hand.
That'll do it, that's love.
There you go, that's love.
That's love, isn't it?
Okay, so it's question.
So the same question. For me, in my humble opinion around how can we encourage others to have unconditional positive regard, it's not, for me it doesn't really start in the workplace. It's about how I present on a day-to-day basis. It could be an interaction in a shop doorway. Yeah. It could be studying a bus queue, and I was talking to someone before about having these judgments and preconceptions, and someone could push past me in the bus queue, and as a squidgy human being, I'll turn around and think, you whopper or whatever, when in reality I need to take a bit of a step back and think that person might have something going on for them. There could be something, could be something emotional that they're going through. I need to look at it, put a positive spin on it. It might not be the case. They might just want to get me out of the road and get to the front of the bus queue. But in reality, if I look at it from a positive perspective, from a loving and caring positive perspective, and give them a break, and at the same time give myself a break, not burn my own head out, worrying about this, that and the other, stressing about things that I don't need to stress about. And it's about just exempling it. It's the simple things. In work, in day to day, I give people the floor and the opportunity to open up, and when I don't have these preconceptions, I go in as a human being, I can get these KPIs, I can get these results because you show them a bit of love, you have that bit of connection, not making the judgment, listening, basically, opening my ears. So a wiser person than me said, just take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. So I'm not being solution focused like I'm told to be. You come in with something going on for you, I go, right, do X, Y and Z and be alright. It's giving them the floor to put out what's actually going on for them and looking underneath that. Then you can meet the needs, and you can get the KPIs. Just show them a bit of love. That's me. That's it.
You did it. Oh. I just want to pass over to Ali now as well. Well done.
So me and Gaz have been sitting next to each other at the table, doing a really good job of winding each other up and who is actually the more anxious about speaking. So yeah, I'm just going to start by saying I'm being more than 10% braver by standing up and doing this. So. And thanks for adding the standing up bit, Andy, because that's just torture. So I just, everything Gaz has just said, on a personal level, totally agree with it. Love the cotton wool out of your ears and in your mouth. I really like that. I'm going to remember that one. But also in a work context, I work for the Poverty Truth Commission, and basically everything Gaz has just said on a personal level is what we're trying to do through Poverty Truth. We're trying to bring the people who are living and struggling in poverty in their daily lives together with the people that make the decisions that affect them. And we're trying to bring them together as human beings, to look at each other, to understand each other, to see the stresses that both sets of people are facing. And doing that work for me has really, it's really changed the way I think about work, because I'm definitely a person who wants to get out and do, and we've taken a long time to just sit and be with each other and listen to each other and try to understand each other, and I think that's been frustrating for quite a lot of people, but I really think we're beginning to understand each other more, and we've certainly had some people from both sides come in and be very antagonistic to the other, and that is really changing. We had one person who came who didn't want to be here, who just thought people were, I can't remember the term that was used, but something like, scroungers, whatever, totally changed his perceptions, and they're the people I actually want to work with, because, maybe in this room we're all sitting here on the same, coming from the same viewpoint, but the people I really want to work with are the people that don't have that viewpoint, and how to do unconditional positive regard for them is actually very difficult. But it is possible.
Thank you, Ali. I think that moves us on nicely to the next question. So what are the risks in attempting to love the other? And that's the risks to ourselves and the risks to society. So I wanted to give this to Sue.
Many. Stand up. There are many risks. But like we said earlier, Andy said earlier, law can just contain us so that we don't harm. But if we want to transcend, we are going to have to take risks. The risks to me and to society. Yeah, the risk to us to love somebody. Well, you know what? I don't know that they're as great as I thought I was going to say when I stood up, because I think most people are formed by love, made for love, and respond to love. So I think there's a bit of a mythology out there that says if you risk loving people, they'll take you for a ride. That hasn't been overall my experience. My mother was the child of rape, so I was raised in a history of extreme overprotection and don't ever be vulnerable. It's a very sterile place to live. And coming out of that and deciding, to be 10%, 5% braver and be out there rather than hidden, I haven't actually found that people don't respond better to love than they do to control or bitterness. So I'm not sure that the risks are that high, honestly, but if they are, you might get some more scars, which we all know turn us into superheroes. Because actually love is all about being stronger than death, let's use that phrase. Redemption is greater than innocence. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff there I'd want to unpack, but I think if we're going to love, we've got to learn forgiveness, we've got to learn release, we've got to learn all those things where the risk would be to be rejected. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can feel bad for a day or two, or you can forgive, and you can get over it and go again. Yeah, I changed my mind.
I think where I went with that question was that when you're attempting to love, that's what we're talking here about, what does the shape of society look like if we step back and ask ourselves what needs to change. I think the risks in those are that sometimes when we ask the questions, the answers are a little bit uncomfortable, that they put us into a situation where actually we might have to make more changes than we anticipated. So sometimes loving isn't always easy. It can be uncomfortable on the way. That's not to say it's not a good thing to do.
Thanks, Cathy. Did either of you want to add to that? Okay, so I think it moves us on to the next question. I'm not entirely sure who's posed this one, but I'm going to read it in its entirety. So it says, is this about love, or is there a different word? Is there a different word? Is it more about respect or understanding? Because we can't love Donald Trump. So kind of leading on to the last question, where we're looking and attempting to love the other. First off, does anyone want to own that question? Any table? Okay. Would it be possible to send the microphone back to that table, Andy?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Ask them?
Yeah, and ask them, yeah. This question.
You want to ask them the question?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, answer your own question. Is it possible to love Donald Trump?
I don't know why we arrived at that, because we watched all sorts of things, but what we were looking at more was about the semantics of it, in terms of, the word love is so lovely that couldn't apply it to any kind of isms, or, how do you love somebody who's a xenophobe or a homophobe or whatever, and Trump's just the epitome of it. And so the way that we were thinking about it is it about semantics? Because I want to have compassion and I want to have empathy, but I also want to change Trump. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think it's lack of experience, it's lack of understanding, and it's a lack of knowledge. So whilst there are the labels of homophobia and xenophobia and racism, I think what exists behind it is a lack of experience, education and understanding, and I think that you've got to love, because I think that's the place where it comes from, a complete lack of understanding. And then if there is an understanding and that's the perspective that people still have, for me it needs even more love, because no amount of judgment or condemning is really going to change that. And I think personally that really is the only answer. There's an answer to put out to society, but I think an answer that's got to reside in you personally. Otherwise it would just perpetuate more of what is happening. So I think for me that would be a personal response of my own. Do either of you guys want to elaborate on this question?
I'd say for me it is a bit of open-mindedness, because under that he's only formed his opinions, his xenophobia and all that off his experience, and that it's valid to him, and it's that connection that he could possibly get from someone else. They could take a bit of learning from it, but also he could take a bit of learning from that interaction. We can love Donald Trump, we don't have to love his values and beliefs. So the person underneath and that interaction, and I had a conversation before with someone outside, and people we interact with throughout our lives, they do the imprint on our DNA. For me, they give us a stamp, whether it's, if I sit around a lot of people that are negative, I take that on board and it will imprint on my DNA and I will sit in that stuff. But alternatively, if I stick around a lot of people that are showing me love consistently, regularly, giving me solutions, not forcing them on me, just putting them out there and it being present, I get that connection, that invisible umbilical cord, it's there. I can feel that little bit of electricity, my hairs stand on my arms, when I'm working, and you get those moments, you get them, you just know you're with them, you're with that person, and that distance between us is filled, and it's filled with that essence, with that love, and you get some progression out of it. So yeah, do you want to say that?
Alan.
Thank you.
So I read a book by Desmond Tutu once, and he was talking about everything that had gone on in South Africa and how he used to pray, I want to love. And if he couldn't love, he would pray, I want to love. And that's always stuck with me, that if you can't love, you can want to love.